When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septum Sid versus the Wild. Septum Sid versus the Wild. Septum Sid versus the Wild. Septum Sid versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
Welcome back, fellow vlogcasters. It's been a long time, so of course, turn up those audible speakers. Kick off your shoes, lay back, enjoy your drive to work, enjoy your commute, enjoy all the various places that you listen to your podcast goodness as we bring you our Vlogcast.
Now, we don't recommend that you kick off your shoes and lay back while you're driving to work, but, you know, do it in your mind.
It has been a while. We have had so much going on during this Oscar
Yes.
prep. We've done so many top 15s. We've been sick. We've been doing
Yes.
all of these things, and none of them have been vlogcast. So I want to start just talking about where we are going forward. We're going to be trying to limit these to an hour after today. There's almost no way we can do that today.
We can try.
We can try. We'd be moving very fast.
Yes.
But we're going to try and do 2 vlogcasts a month. When we get towards the hour, we'll just have to drop whatever it is that we've got that's in the wings. And on the alternates, we will be doing a top 15. And then the other thing we're going to do is we're going to do a movie discussion. Now, I'm going to try and publish it here on this channel, but I'm also going to want to see if Inside Movies Galore, or Delusions of Grandeur, as they're now calling themselves, will also publish it so that we can get twice the coverage at twice the fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be...
Not to mention our usual weekly pickups and what's upcoming.
all the news. That's always going to be there.
All the news.
And of course reviews and all the other extras that we do individually in between.
Yes.
And if you haven't heard of Inside Movies Galore, then you need to go check them out. They are an awesome channel where we discuss movies, and they have wonderful interviews and great reviews.
And tune into this week's discussion on Guillermo del Toro's El Laberinto del Fauno, which is a great film.
Or the upcoming discussion on King Kong.
Yes, we are doing Monster March. We have already done Killer Rack and the Monster Squad. So.
And of course, following Monster March, we're going to be moving into Animal April, which saddens me because I want to do Anime April, but we're going to do a top 15 anime list to kick off our Anime April.
Nice.
And our discussion is going to be about gaming type movies. So we'll have to find like an anime type gaming movie or short series or something like that to discuss for our April thing.
Yeah, well, there definitely have been series. I don't know about movie, but we'll find out.
So, any case, I guess we should go ahead and get started.
And I do apologize if you hear really loud hacking coughing. The sickness that I had last week was the kind that leaves you with really loud hacking coughing. Even that sounds worse than it is. So just be prepared.
Well, so I guess we're just going to go off with what we have started watching, reading, gaming, whatever it is, over this time.
Very good.
I got my water. You reminded me.
Yes.
My voice, too. Go for it.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Now, as far as starting, I think it could be safely said that I started 2 new comic series, The Invincible Iron Man and Justice League of America, both of which were pretty interesting. JLA, the current incarnation, is very interesting in that you have Lobo and Killer Frost on the team. And of course Batman, Vixen, and Black Canary being the sort of, quote, heroes running everything. And then Invincible Iron Man is written by Brian Michael Bendis, who has a great job. He is a great writer with the comics. And There's an absolutely incredible scene with Iron Man and Carol Danvers that was pretty cool. Not to mention, apparently Tony Stark has an obsession with him and Doctor Strange being known as awesome facial hair bros. And Doctor Strange doesn't like this. He thinks it's silly. But the viewing is the exciting part. I have finally started watching Arrow.
Woo!
Finally. I'm about 5 episodes in.
Good series.
Yes, it is so far. I did not realize they brought in Deadshot in the 3rd episode. It was pretty interesting. And I finally, you will be very thrilled to know that I am taking the NIS project seriously finally.
Yay!
And I'm about halfway through with Brave 10, which was pretty interesting so far. It's a lot of fun.
It's a good series.
Yep. All right.
I've got 4 things that I've started, and really a lot of it's restarted. But, actually, 3 restarted, 1 started. The first one is really an ending and a beginning, because I finished my rewatch of Star vs. the Forces of Evil just in time to catch the premiere, and it has been going on now for 2 weeks, so I've gotten the first 4 episodes of the new season going, and it looks like it's going to be fun. It's Star is having to deal with the fact that she gave up the kingdom, and is having to deal with a lot of changes in her life, as she has to decide between many things, potentially evil, the potential loss of her mother, and her feelings between her current boyfriend and her best friend. So it is an interesting turmoil there, and I'm sure that the ride will continue up until the end, as this is the last of those 4 seasons, which is the whole series. Hopefully we'll get a full release after that. Also in viewing, I started up Bottle Fairy. Now, it's kind of odd because I like to try and prioritize NIS titles when I'm starting, but I noticed that I had filed Bottle Fairy in with my watched stuff. And, well, I didn't feel like filing it into my new stuff. So I went ahead and I started watching it. I'm halfway through the series. It's not very long. It's about these little fairies that live in bottles, and they're trying to be human.
And it's got good music.
Yes, decent music, and it will. And I'll probably be talking about how I completed it at the next vlogcast because it's not very long.
Right.
Reading-wise, I have restarted Knights of the Dinner Table. I'm actually been serious about it this time, and have gone ahead and I'm on, I think, issue 5 of like 200 and some. So we'll see how long that goes. You're probably not going to hear from me about this series for a long time after this. So the series is about this group of people who like tabletop RPGs. And they are just typical role-playing. If you do tabletop, you will get a lot out of this. I ended up getting it in a bulk digital from the creator himself, and it was kind of cool. I got a good deal on it for the bulk rate, so I've had it on my my e-reader, and I've just been kind of sifting through it. I've got a lot of it in physical copy, but it's just so much. Just track it all down, and they're all magazines, so they all have gaming things in it. It's kind of cool. Last but not least, I have started up again with Fallout 76. I said I will give this one more try, because my cousin really loves this game. So I will try it, and they have a new Appalachia expansion, and I'm curious as to how far south they got. Because they have the Greenbrier Hotel, I've heard. So I'd like to actually see places that I grew up around, and it would be kind of cool to check it out. So right now I'm just trying to survive, and I'm hoping to move forward. Of course, as my wife had said, it's very boring because they've taken all the people out of it, and I don't like online games. I don't like playing with other people online because people have expectations that you be good, and I don't like those expectations because I'm not good. And besides, when I'm playing Fallout, I'm there to explore and enjoy, and that part is kind of cool. And people aren't quite willing to take the slow pace that I like to take. And that is what I started. So, I know we both have a substantial watch, so we'll start with your first one. We'll just keep going back and forth, and we'll finish this list off sometime in the future.
Yes, sometime.
And we have a few overlaps, so that will be good too.
And actually, I was just thinking, I might as well go ahead and start with some of the stuff that's overlapping. I think, according to my notes, we have gone through at least 3, and then, of course, this week makes 4 films with Inside Movies galore since the last time we did this. So, in this time, I have watched Raising Arizona, Killer Rack, The Monster Squad, and Pan's Labyrinth. So, definitely tune into our discussions for each of those films.
Yes.
Be aware that the Killer Rack one, by definition, is not safe for work. But the Raising Arizona, of course, was my birthday film, and I'm a huge fan of the Brothers Coen. I had fun running that one, and I think I'm supposed to be running Pan's Labyrinth. There seems to be some disconnect between what was discussed and what people are...
Well, just prepare for it.
I'm
That's the best way to
prepared
do
for
it.
it. But it's like, we came up with these and then I think we forgot who was doing what. But anyway, I am deeply immersed in preparation for that, actually. So before I go into that, if you wanted to comment on any one of those movies, I don't know. Because I think you watched them all in this point in time.
Yeah, I watched all of them in that point in time. Killer Rack was something. It's about a woman who is insecure about her size. So she gets a demon basically installed in her chest, and the demon starts killing people.
One of the Cthulhu elder gods.
And that's pretty much the whole of it.
Yeah.
It is what it sounds. It's ridiculous.
It's very tongue-in-cheek. It's very knowingly ridiculous. And partly, I kind of enjoyed that. And that was kind of as I mentioned in our discussion, it reminded me of an old movie quote that has become a running joke with us. And water is where you find it.
Yes, it is. But also, let's see here. Was that... I don't have anything to say about Raising Arizona that you haven't said. Pan's Labyrinth is excellent, and it is a part of a trilogy. And you might as well talk about the other two.
That was my plan. I wanted to give you a chance. And did you have anything on Monster Squad before we moved on?
No, because I wasn't on that episode. I was sick. There were a couple things that I thought were kind of cool. Like, I had found out that Bela Lugosi's ring was being worn by the vampire character in it. And that Universal Monsters were against them having it done. Yeah. And so they had to alter them in order to not get sued.
Which is appropriate, considering that the first vampire film was a rip-off of Bram Stoker that was not a... Nosferatu was a straight-up rip-off that the widow Stoker was like, no, you can't do that. But anyway, to prepare for El Laberinto del Fauno, I have a pretty kick-ass, and you have a pretty kick-ass set, Trilogia de Guillermo del Toro from Criterion Collection. I have been going through this from start to finish. I have watched Kronos. I have watched El Espinazo de Diablo, The Devil's Backbone, and all the bonus features. Devil's Backbone had a documentary attached to it called Chaos un Fantasma. Kronos has a short film attached to it that was one of Del Toro's very first projects. It was a cheapie he made when in his student film days called Geometry, And the whole thing, it's a weird little horror film that gets into demonic summoning and all this kind of stuff. And the movie version, the movie collection that we have, the version is reworked. Del Toro considered the original one unfinished. He went back and redubbed all the vocals himself, so the boy and his mother and everything, he does the vocals for everyone. And it's really weird, and at the end you realize it was a joke. The punchline to the film is freaking hilarious. It's a weird little film. Pan's Labyrinth, I fell instantly in love with. I've always loved the film. And this is going to be this was my, I think, third time seeing it. I have worked through everything on Kronos and Devil's Backbone. I'm halfway through Pan's Labyrinth. Hopefully by the time we do the discussion, which means by the time this video goes up, hopefully I will have finished the collection. I will be filming one of my Criterion reviews for this collection, but probably not until the weekend. And God knows when it'll get posted. I have a backlog on those right now. I did finally get an anime review posted, which if you haven't seen it, you should. It's fun. I make a lot of references to Christmas. That's how far behind I was. But still.
And as far as the trilogy is, I also got it. And if you all want to see my Del Toro collection, which has basically all the films that he directed that have been out on home video now, it is up on the site. I did post it last week in lieu of our original pickup. We did make up for it. I also have watched all three. I have not had time to do the extras. I will probably be less prepared in that. But at the same time, it is what it is. I'm just glad I got the 3 movies watched.
Yeah.
I have different thoughts on each of them. I still consider Kronos, though it's his first feature length, it's also his most artsy film, in my opinion. I feel like it's the artsiest of all of them.
Well, in some ways he was forced to be. One of the interesting things you'll learn in the thing, Del Toro loves his special effects. If you've seen any of his recent films, like Pacific Rim and Hellboy 2, Pan's Labyrinth, they're very effects heavy, but he also does have a background in practical effects. And one of the cool things is that Kronos had the biggest budget at the time of any Mexican film, but it was still, by American standards, a shoestring budget, especially for a fantasy film. Yeah. The entire thing is practical effects. There's basically no special effects in the film. So it's incredibly impressive when you look at it from that perspective, what he was able to get done with practical effects. And you have to be pretty artsy to be able to think that far outside the box,
And, it is definitely a cool film. It is a very unique take on the vampire film. And it just has a lot of cool imagery. I hope that one day we do cover Kronos on Inside Movies Galore. I feel like that should have been the
I'm actually thinking about promoting it as a Christmas movie. Because it is. It's a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas movie. Yes. And it to me we should have started with that one, did the Devil's Backbone, and then done Pan's Labyrinth.
Again, Kronos is the outlier. Starting with Devil's Backbone would have been a good one.
And Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth both take place during the war.
During and after.
During and after.
The Spanish Civil War, yeah.
And both of them are very unique tales, whereas Devil's Backbone is more of a ghost story. Pan's Labyrinth is more of a fantasy story. And, of course, Kronos is more of a horror story.
Right.
And each one has elements of the other in it. But it's very interesting. I always felt... See, Devil's Backbone was a harder watch for me. I've always been kind of bored by it. And I kind of enjoyed this time through more. But at the same time, still, there were times where I zoned out and had to rewatch sometimes. Pan's Labyrinth, though, is a beautiful thing. You got a girl who is staying with her stepfather, who is a fascist, and they do everything they can. He's probably the most cartoony figure in this entire movie because he really is. He's like this cartoony, almost mustache-twirling evil man.
Yes and no. I mean,
he does have moments, but they punctuate it with, "Oh no, this man is evil."
Well, yeah.
And a lot of the other things that kind of humanize him a little bit still don't come close to the evil that they present him as. And we'll talk more on that, I guess, when we get to it.
Oh, yeah.
But
we'll have plenty. I'll have plenty to say on that tomorrow on the movies galore discussion.
Well, I'm going to go ahead, since you covered all that.
Yeah.
I will cover the last one that I think we saw together this last time.
Yeah.
And that is Captain Marvel.
Yep.
We saw that in theaters on release. I'll say this: shove it, fanboys. It was not a bad film.
No, it wasn't.
And it was not the best Marvel film, but considering how many Marvel films are out there,
and how freaking awesome some of them are,
it's just to me, it's a good watch.
Yeah.
It's a good setup
Yeah.
to Endgame. I am going to be making sure,
Well,
even if I don't get all of the stuff watched, that I do at least watch the last, Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll watch that movie before I get to Endgame again, just to make sure.
I will say that one of the very few complaints about Captain Marvel that I'm fully on board with is that it didn't do much to set up Endgame. It really, very, very little of the film is directly tied to the films that came before. Some of it is. I mean, Nick Fury is a central character, and you get a lot of feeling, not just the explanation of what really happened to his eye, which is hilarious, by the way, but you get introduced to a greenhorn wet behind the ears Phil Coulson, and that was kind of fun. And then one cool thing I heard that I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard this fan theory that I think is really cool. The time syncs up, but there's a scene where Carol Danvers and her friend's daughter, Monica Rambeau, are sitting watching the stars, and they see a shooting star, and the fan theory goes that that's Peter Quill leaving Earth.
Huh.
And I'm like, that's a really cool tie-in if that is the case.
That would
and
be
of course, Monica Rambeau is a character that I'm not very familiar with, but she's apparently really big nowadays.
She was sort of a Captain Marvel herself, I believe.
Well, she went by a different name, but yeah, similar.
Yeah.
And of course, the introduction of Captain Marvel makes possible Miss Marvel, who's one of my favorite characters. They kind of, in this case, skipped the whole Miss Marvel thing and promoted her to Captain. But anyway, when Kamala Khan comes in, that'll be awesome. But this film does it could have done a little more at the end instead of that mid-credit. The mid-credit scene looks like it's pulled directly from the film. They could have maybe done something more organic to this film.
Yeah.
Maybe, but the people who were expecting this to immediately feed right in, I think that wasn't a necessary expectation. The film, though, let's say this. The people who were complaining that Captain Marvel was one note were wrong. Brie Larson does play many notes. She does a great job with the character. She's very fun. She's very interesting. And, of course, it gives us our new favorite Marvel character. Goose is awesome. He is a great character.
I've seen his shirt that's been focusing on circulating on Facebook, and it's got Goose up there, and it's got the thing, "Bring me Thanos." The one thing that was a point of confusion was the Tesseract and its involvement. I feel like that was just thrown in because, I see where it could go. Again, I haven't watched all of them over again. We've been trying, and I know that it first shows up in Captain America. Mm-hmm. Well, not first, but you know what I mean. Earliest time period, Captain America, and then it gets in the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D. So I'm guessing that between that and when it gets taken by Loki in Thor, I believe it is. Was it? I think Thor was when he broke in and took it at the end, like the sting. It somehow ended up in the hands of them and Captain Marvel.
Right.
and I can sort of see it. I feel like it's a stretch. I feel like they just had to shove it in there somewhere. That was probably the one thing that I was like, okay, I don't think this was needed.
And I'll admit, I'm not familiar with how Carol Danvers got her powers in the comics. I'm not familiar with the official on-the-page explanation. Definitely being infused with the power of Infinity Stone sounds like a reasonable explanation for... but I'm not 100% sure. I know she was taken in by the Kree and what have you, but I don't know if the movie's explanation to where they claimed responsibility where they didn't really have any, I don't really know. But we'll find out. We'll figure it out eventually, I'm sure. And then, of course, you get a couple other nods to the rest of the series. You see Korath at the beginning, or throughout the film. You see Ronan the Accuser, who I kind of liked where he just tucked tail and run at the end. That was kind of funny. For a very brief moment, I got to see, he reminded me of his character on Pushing Daisies just a little bit more than he had in the past, and I thought that was kind of fun. So that was a fun show. And of course, this is a movie that did everything it could to let you know exactly when it took place. They did rock a very 90s-tastic soundtrack. And I won't go into details, but Stan Lee's cameo set the date in a way that was absolutely perfect. I loved it.
Well, they did a great... That tribute they did at the beginning was also
the
really
tribute
good.
at the beginning was great, too. He gets a cameo and a tribute, which is nice.
Kevin Smith was gushing over that, too.
Yes, I'm sure he was.
Because they include the Mallrats thing in there.
I was trying to give them something to look forward to, but whatever.
Oh, it's all covered in this movie aspect.
Oh, true. But anyway, so I saw a handful of films not specifically related to any other thing that we were just talking about, and I honestly can't recall if I got them all. I probably forgot a couple.
Gotta catch them all.
But one of the ones I did see in the last couple of weeks that was pretty cool. I finally got to see Ocean's 8, and I'll go ahead and lump these together. I saw Ocean's 8 and The Old Man and the Gun, and both of them were essentially sort of heist caper films that were very up tempo and fun. Ocean's 8 has a really incredible cast. It's pretty well done. It captured a lot of the spirit of Steven Soderbergh's Ocean's 11. Didn't quite capture the magic of the film, but it still was a pretty worthy successor. Mm-hmm. They even brought in Elliot Gould for a very brief cameo, and it was pretty fun. The Old Man and the Gun, of course, was the Robert Redford film that was supposed to be a swan song until he decided it might not be. It also features Danny Glover, Tom Waits, and Sissy Spacek, and Casey Affleck. And of course, Casey Affleck, he kind of leaves a bad taste nowadays. It's going to be a while before I can watch a movie with him and fully be on board. But all the rest of them were great. And it's supposedly loosely based on real events about an old dude who keeps getting... He has been in and out of jail since he's a kid. Or at least early teens. He is up in his 70s, I believe. And he's still in and out of prison. And on his most recent jaunt in the free world, he and Tom Waits and Danny Glover are his accomplices, is a bank robber who, I keep wanting to say Colin Farrell. I don't know why. Casey Affleck plays a police officer who's trying to capture him. And Spacek plays the woman that he falls for and starts spending time with. And, it's just a fun movie. He just plays this guy. He's just real charming, real polite. He goes up, he starts chatting up whoever he needs to talk to, and then just says, by the way, I have a gun. I need you to do what and then when they interview these people afterwards, they were like, well, what was it like being robbed? Well, he was so nice. It was just, it was great. It was a lot of fun. It was
That kind of reminds me of Raising Arizona in a way.
in a way.
I guess
yes.
if he hadn't settled down, he kept going, he might have been the guy in this. That sounds like this guy is a slight more competent than the main character,
I
Raising
think
Arizona.
the film was a little kinder to its characters than your average Coen film, but you know.
So, yeah, I know Ocean's 8 had a slight bit of controversy around it. It came out around the same time as Ghostbusters remake.
Well,
And that whole idea, that whole idea that, well, we can do the same thing with an all-female cast, and it can be just as good, which slightly enraged the internet, though they weren't as enraged at this.
Right.
And I remember looking at this and saying, well, if anything, I was supporting that. And I was curious how well they pulled it off. So it sounds like they did a good job with that. I do have it. It's going to be watched eventually.
It will be watched.
Hey,
Oh, yes.
I watched the Ghostbusters redo,
Right.
so I will watch this one. So one of the first things I really came on and watched was Tatami Galaxy.
Ah,
Now this is a really interesting series. I had to get it I had to get the UK release because there is no US release. This is by the same individual who did The Night is Short, Walk On Girl, which came out this last year, and it's in the same universe. Now this stars this college student who is constantly trying out new things. There's almost a time angle to where you go to different clubs and he's always assaulted by this friend of his throughout as he tries to find love when love is simply when love is simply hanging around him. That's the best way to describe it. There are a lot of repetition of things that go on, but there's a lot of cool differences. And a heck of a lot of talking. I had a hard time watching the art style because the words were constantly just across the screen. But the art style has that slight cartoony style. There's only one other series that kind of it reminds me of overall, and that is Zetsubo Sensei, which had a very similar bent when it comes to just talking about just slice of life stuff in a slightly strange manner. It was very well done. I really enjoyed it. It might be a while before I try it again, but still, it's 11 episodes. It's worth a watch if you hadn't. It has a great opener and ender, in my opinion. So it's worth a check out. It is, again, it's really sad it hasn't come out here. My hope is one day, maybe Nice Short Walk On Girl will prompt this one to be released. A lot of his other stuff is out here.
all right. So my go?
Yep.
All right. So actually, a really interesting thing is that I got, not really on purpose, but kind of by accident, I sort of ended up in a row of several films in a row that were very much related to crime and criminals and people involved with crime. You know, Raising Arizona, Ocean's 8, The Old Man and the Gun, all these were kind of like in a row. And also mixed into this row of films was Cidade de Deus, The City of God, which I finally watched my copy of the film. And it is a pretty freaking phenomenal movie. It's a Brazilian film, Portuguese language, set in the slum known as the City of God, or Cidade de Deus. And it follows this young boy, Rocket, who wants to be a photographer, and Lil Zay, who's a psycho killer who wants to be the boss, the big guy, the big man. And he's got his right-hand dude, Benny. There's the girl Angelica that Rocket's in love with but ends up with Benny. You've got Carrot, who's a rival dealer who's and then what's his face, Handsome Ned, I think is what they called him, who ends up working with Carrot almost on a revenge kick. But they're a Knockout Ned, that was what they called him. So it's got a pretty kick-ass soundtrack. It's really interesting visuals. I don't like how shaky the camera gets at times, but the way they did desaturated color and everything, I can see why it was nominated for cinematography. It's a pretty awesome film. Really hard to watch. It gets really hard to watch. It's kind of a Scorsese feel to a lot of it, almost like a Scorsese Tarantino feel.
I remember having a hard time with it myself.
Yeah, but that one, it was good to get that rewatched.
So I'm going to bundle two together because one really led to the other. And that is, I went to see Lego Movie 2. Now, I've been having some time where I'm like, you know what, I'm going to start watching more films that I know that my wife doesn't have an interest in, but I want to watch usually. So I'll take her lunch to work, and then I go and watch a matinee when I have the time, if I'm not working that day. And Lego Movie 2, I had a choice between that and How to Train Your Dragon 3, so I picked Lego Movie 2 because I want to see that more. And it was everything. It blew my expectations away. I was not that impressed by the trailers because I've gotten tired of post-apocalyptic stuff, Fallout 76, and I was just like, not really sure where they're going with this. But to me, it was not only just as good as the original, but it was also, I think it almost tops it. It's at least as good, if not better, than the original movie. And that's hard for a sequel to do.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Excellent voice work, really cool animations. The villain in this one was really awesome, and though I should have seen the twist coming, it still took me by surprise. And I really like it when a film can do that.
Not to mention, Not a Villain is a fun song.
Oh, it is. It is a very fun song. I played him a couple of the songs from it, and it really is fun. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It is worth checking out in theaters.
I want to.
And inspired me also to get the Lego Movie game. Lego Movie 2 game, which came out. But I had never beaten the first Lego Movie game. So I went through and I finally beat that one. And it covers the plot of the original Lego Movie. It has a lot of the basic mechanics. If you've ever played a Lego game, it's, you've got all of these different types of characters with all these different powers. And you can keep revisiting the level to try and get all the little coins and all the little unlockables. And you can reselect these different characters to go on the stages and help you get unlockables. Like, I really enjoyed Gymnast Judy, or whatever her name was. It was kind of just fun because she had better acrobatics than Wild Style. And it was just really fun. I enjoyed my time playing it, and I may revisit it in the future to unlock some more of those collectibles. But it was fun, and it was cool taking on Lord Business and kicking his butt. And but the one major difference is you get to do the Master Builder stuff, where you can select different objects and build new objects. And they supposedly build upon that in the second game, which I will be playing in the future, hopefully.
Cool. Alright, so next up was a film I watched last night, and to be perfectly honest, it was not that exciting, and I was disappointed. But I got to see one of the Oscar nominees. I did get a chance to see Mary, Queen of Scots, which of course ended up being up for Best Makeup and Best Costume Design.
Oh.
And yes, the costuming is pretty darn impressive. The makeup is impressive. However, if I understood correctly, I think the film spans approximately 25 years. And I don't think they really made the actresses look like they aged, well, anyone really, look like they aged that much time. The makeup had more to do with the hairstyling, the fact that Queen Elizabeth, Margot Robbie, at one point has the pox, and so she definitely has nasty, warped facial features at one point. So they did do a lot with the makeup, but to me it paled to Vice. So yeah, Vice deserved that win. But overall, it wasn't that exciting a film. It was, Margot Robbie does a fine job as Queen Elizabeth. She kind of underplays it mostly. Saoirse Ronan is downright fierce as Mary, the Queen of Scots, but most of the supporting cast was interesting. It took me a while to even place Guy Pearce. Eventually I did. He did a good job. And one that I found interesting, Brendan Coyle, who, of course, the Mr. Bates from Downton Abbey, plays a very nasty, villainous sort in the film. It was interesting seeing him in playing the sort of character that he is constantly accused of being. Yes. And it was interesting. It just could have been more interesting. And I was disappointed, but yeah.
The next one I got was a John Johnson film. And the more I think about it, I think this is a different John Johnson than the one I'm thinking of, because it's a very different feel of a film, and that's called Ratchet. And this is about this author that he writes for TV or movies, and so he's going down to get some inspiration to write. Of course, nothing bad could possibly happen with that plot setup.
Right.
Said every Stephen King writer ever that came and... yeah, it just seems like this happens a lot in Stephen King novels.
You couldn't possibly have a bad outcome.
So he stumbles upon this series of murders that have happened in the community. And eventually, the murderer herself, or himself. You need to check it out to check out the mystery. It's an older film. Not older, but it's not, like, brand new. And it was interesting. It dragged in points, but... still, overall, as far as films go, it was a decent thriller.
All right. So, as mentioned at the start of all this, I've been working on my NIS America shows. And during this time period that we are covering, I watched in its entirety a series called The Daily Lives of High School Boys. It was a fun show. It really is a fun, weird show. It centers primarily on 3 high school age boys, although one of them it's almost a running joke that he gets very little screen time as the show goes on. And you get you've also got a handful of other boys in the same class, and the 4 who are the student council are the other main ones they focus on. And there's a smattering of other characters who get a lot of screen time. It does focus on the boys, but there are several female characters, probably the most prominent of which is the president of their sister school, who, for whatever reason, is obsessed with just basically proving them all to be inferior to her. She has a major Napoleon complex. She really does. There is the mysterious girl who likes books, that's an interesting plot line that goes on there. All of the main characters have siblings, older or younger siblings. One of them, his sibling is a brother who's a supporting character. The others have sisters. And a weird trait that bugs me, it really bugs me, a lot of the female characters and a few of the male characters are portrayed without eyes, except occasionally when they're really upset. And it bugs me. It's like, I realize this is from the viewpoint of these high school boys, but it just kind of didn't sit well with me that they chose to go with that art, you know what I mean? But it's a fun, weird show about boys being boys. That's pretty much what it is.
I did find it refreshing, though I admit it's not as good as it could have been.
Right.
But I still find it refreshing because these slice of life series, they always are talking about a group of high school girls.
Right.
So this to me is it's kind of a refreshing take. Right. It's a new way to look at the slice of life type series. So it's just kind of cool in that sense.
And they I think they make reference to that a couple of times. Yeah. And they have sort of a reference to it in a running gag where most episodes end with a Girls Are Funky segment where the main characters are 3 high school girls, and it reminded me a lot of the show Girls High, where they go into that more darker way of showing girls, and it was kind of an interest. They almost annoyed me, except for the one who was like real quiet, but it used to be a psycho. Yes.
Well, speaking of slice of life series starring high school girls, I had recently got in the K-On! Box set. I have a lot of K-On! To talk about.
Nice.
I figured I'd just wrap it all in a big bow.
Right.
Because I finished 3 aspects of K-On!
Amp box.
I finished many aspects of K-On! This time. I watched Season 1, Season 2, the movie, listened to the soundtrack, and finished all the manga.
Nice.
So, that's a lot to go on.
Yeah.
Well, as many of you probably, if you have been continuing with the vlogcast, know, I have been reading the manga for a long time. And the whole series is about these girls in high school who decide to join this like music club. And they're kind of lazy in a lot of aspects. So they turn it into sort of a tea time club where they play music on the side. And eventually even the name of their band becomes After School Tea Time. So as it goes along through the series, it's written in more of an omake type format when it comes to the manga. It goes through the 3 years of high school from their very beginning to the second half of their year, where they introduce Azunyan, which is their freshman, their freshman companion, and
their kohai.
Kohai, thank you. That was the word I was looking for.
Slash mascot.
And then, speaking of Yan,
Hey, Carl, how's it going? He's like, I'm y'all's mascot.
So they are. They go through all 3 years of their school, and then the manga also continues on past that. The TV series also ends with the school years, sort of, and includes a couple of things that were not in the manga, which is kind of cool. It goes also into the performances, so you can actually hear what their music sounds like, which is really neat. I think it provides an aspect to me making the manga actually inferior to the anime.
Well, and also the you get to watch them perform.
Yes.
This is one of the reasons I love KyoAni. They put so much emphasis on actual movement. They really, the animation of those performance sequences is incredible.
Well,
Yeah.
of course, what it doesn't do, K-On! Goes into their senior trip to England, which is their movie, which is also really good, really well animated, and they had at least one original song, and it takes place right before the last part of season 2, and how they write one of the songs, which is included on the soundtrack.
Oh.
Which has several of the songs from the series, none of the enders, which is kind of sad, but they have a different tone, and it doesn't cover near the amount of the music that they have in the series, but it is still a fun little soundtrack to have.
Nice.
As far as the manga, it goes into a different direction. It covers 2 aspects in the same time period. The first one, which I didn't find greatly amusing, which covered the Greenleaf Girls, which was the new band, formed with Azunyan as the head of the light music club, Yui's sister, who is the opposite of Yui, who is this airhead, and her sister is Ui, who is a very down-to-earth, responsible person, her friend, and 2 new people that came in. One is a maid that was serving one of the characters from the original band.
Mugi?
Yes, and then who Mugi sent to try and reclaim all the tea sets that they had in the room, and she ended up staying there, which was by design actually. And another one who is this bookwormish girl who's not really good at anything, so she becomes their manager, writing beats on the computer and songs for them. Again, decent. To me, it doesn't quite capture the magic that the original cast had. But the college years, however, that was a really good manga. I really enjoyed it. It was great being with the original group. They joined the pop music club at their college that they're attending. And there was another band that joined it as well, filled with some interesting characters. And, of course, their senpais are also quite interesting. I would love to have seen more from that. And I would love to have seen that animated. I think that those would be pretty cool
When's
to see.
that going to be animated?
So, overall, great series, very good manga, and excellent soundtrack.
Okay. Woohoo! Good times. Now I'm going to speed through a whole bunch of stuff real quick. My ongoings. I've seen a lot of CSI and been doing a lot of ongoing reading. I read a large chunk of Fruits Basket, a large chunk of One Piece, a large chunk of Justice League Dark, and finally, after months of waiting, I finally got a hold of Volume 2 of Naruto, so I've restarted reading that. So and we had Comic-Con over the weekend, so I am poised to restart several series at once. And next week I will probably have quite a few of those to talk about.
Well, since we're talking about things like that, I did finish Volume 42 of Skip Beat. I finished that very quickly because
that will be coming up next week.
It was a really good... It really was a good volume. I've picked up in my interest of the series again.
Cool.
And it just really was fairly intensive and told me why I really enjoyed the series.
Cool.
Which is good. That whole sister-brother thing that they did, that storyline, it did have a good payoff at the end, but to me it just got boring. It was a slog for me when I got through that part.
I haven't been as harsh on any one part of the series, but I will admit it wasn't quite as cool as some of the other stuff.
All right. Do you have any more of your watched?
Well, that was what I was doing for ongoing. I'll go ahead and throw into the mix a one-off I read that I may have culled from two different series, I guess, but a one-off graphic novel called Batman, the Flash, the Button, which was one where Batman and the Flash were exploring the famed iconic Watchman button with the blood splatter that somehow showed up in the Batcave. And they're trying to explain it. I thought it was a whole lot of nothing. It was a little bit of a mystery that left with more questions than it answered. It was okay. But that was one of the other things I did this week.
Well, then I will just speed through the rest of my watched because I still have a crap ton left. So I will run
I've still
through.
got a couple more items too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I watched Free Solo.
Oh, okay.
I'd gotten my copy, and I went ahead and dove into it. I am now even more angered by the fact that, one, it took the place of Won't You Be My Neighbor. It might not have been the one that took it, but Won't You Be My Neighbor was a much better film.
Free Solo was one of the top 5 regardless based on its sheer popularity. But yeah.
That to me, I mean, Free Solo is about a free climber. That is essentially what they do. And a free climber is somebody who climbs mountains without any gear.
Mm-hmm.
And he was climbing the dome over in Yosemite, the sheer section.
Right.
And that was his big project. And it talks about all the people who died doing that stupid stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, to me, that's stupid. That's reckless and stupid. Might as well tell me that you're a drug user. It is, I guess it's an adrenaline junkie drug. But I'm sorry, this is just, he made me mad most of the documentary because he has a wife. They're talking. He has like this really close girlfriend. They're talking about settling down and all this, and he's still got to do this stuff. And I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I feel like somebody who does that doesn't deserve the money that he was getting thrown at him.
So you're thinking RBG should have won?
I really think RBG should have won. It was a much better documentary. Overall, it wasn't as pretty. And yeah, it didn't have mountain climbers in it. But Well, I don't know. Some of them could have climbed mountains. I don't know. Some of those people in the documentary
Well,
could.
when you think about the amount of the great big pile of crap she probably has to climb every day when she goes to work, you know, that probably...
Yeah. It's just, to me, I don't see why it... I mean, I can understand popularity-wise, people like this sort of thing, but to me, there were so many more poignant documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
I liked all the documentaries I saw better than this one. I think Mind the Gap should have beaten this one.
Now, of course, that one also had some incredibly frustrating individuals.
Yes, it did. But I felt like it had more of a point to it.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I guess you could take some sort of philosophical point from it, but I don't know. It's just what it was against. Maybe in another year where the documentaries are kind of meh.
Right.
But, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Your next one?
Okay. I actually read in their entirety a couple of books in this time period. Of course, one of them was very, very, very short, and I literally read it in one sitting. It was a little novella that was about 70 pages long. I have said before that I have become a very, very, very big fan of the Swedish writer Fredrik Backman. And each one of his books kind of covers something new and different. And The Man Called Ove, of course, is still my favorite. I love the Beartown books. I tackled another one during this time. He actually has a handful of novellas, and I need to read more of them. The one that I read was one called And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. And it's a very simple tale of a grandfather and his grandson and the other people who know them, basically his son and some other folks. And what you come to find out very early on, it very much focuses on the world as the grandfather sees it. And what you come to find out very early on, which is what the title refers to, is he is suffering from senior dementia of some sort. And every morning the way home gets longer and longer because every morning he has a harder and harder time remembering who he is and where he came from. And it's a very poignant little book, very simple, but very touching. And it did have a little bit of really good humor mixed in, but just it was a good one. And again, super quick. You could probably read it in a day if you wanted to.
That's a big challenge for me. I read slow.
Challenge?
I finally got to see in my Marvel prep, I finally have caught up to all the Marvel films. I had for the longest time not seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. So finally, I got together with my wife and we sat down and we watched it. And it was an enjoyable film. I actually think that Captain Marvel was a better film. But again, I think these movies are those, I mean, some people, they all get ranked differently by a lot of people.
Oh, they sure do.
And Ant-Man, I always considered the Ant-Man series an amusing series, but I never considered it a great series. And this one was a fun romp throughout. I liked the size-changing mechanics that they did throughout. It showed some very good CG and effects. Though there are a few things that just kind of like, well, since they're moving the building around so much, why isn't all the furniture just like on the wall? I mean, it just didn't make sense to me. Does the gravity just stop in the room while they're small like that?
You know, that's a good point. You'd think it would look like someone trashed the place every time they went in.
I mean, if you picked up this building and threw it, I'm pretty sure that all the furniture and DVDs would be on the floor. And we probably wouldn't be alive.
Here, hold this a second.
But still amusing film. I really do enjoy them. They are, to me, it's sort of like Guardians of the Galaxy. These are those kind of enjoyable, more laid-back type films, not the quite over-serious films that we get throughout the rest, like Captain America's.
Right.
Or... well, I would say the Thors, but not with that last one. That last one was definitely not serious in a lot of ways.
Oh, it was great. It was so great.
But again, it still is fun to have a lighthearted one when you've got such a dour tone.
Yeah.
So it would have been a good follow-up for Infinity War Part 1. Definitely.
Yep. Yep. And then, of course, you had that nice callback to Infinity War in the credit sequence.
Oh, you mean the ant playing the drums?
Yes, that one. That one. Yes, just like Captain Marvel gave us the great Infinity War tie-in of the goose and his hairball.
Exactly.
I love that. Anyway, and then the last one I'm going to put on my red list. This was a pretty big one. It wasn't a super long book, but it was more involved. I do try to mix up my fiction and my nonfiction. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of people who would say, lies, the book is all fiction. But if you think it's even remotely true, it's a frightening book. I read the new book by Michael Lewis. It's called The Fifth Risk. Michael Lewis, of course, is the guy who wrote The Blind Side, and he wrote The Big Short. And I've read The Big Short, and it's an excellent book. Excellent book. This is a guy who is known for nonfiction writing, but he writes in such a way that it's very readable and very interesting and very, what have you. The Fifth Risk starts off by examining the Trump campaign's actions, or rather their lack of action, to actually prepare for taking office. And it kind of morphs into a book on the actual way that government works. And I mean more on a bureaucratic level, the way the bureaucracy works. Mm-hmm. And the way that, by extension, it is not working right now by any means. So, again, I'm sure some people will read this book and think it's all lies from start to finish. But I read it and I'm like, oh my God, this is some really nasty stuff. Yes, I want that shirt. Okay, and anyway, like for example, the whole idea that the NOAA, the people who do our weather for us as a public service, the guy who's now in charge of the NOAA wants to privatize weather reports. Because that benefits everybody so very much. So very much. So, at any rate, and he, by the way, is the guy who runs AccuWeather, so I don't like AccuWeather very much anyway. I never did before, but now I really don't. But definitely worth a read.
Well, continue with my Marvel stuff.
I want to review this.
The Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I finally got my Steelbook, and if you haven't seen it, go look at our pickups, because the Steelbook is shown on the pickups. So I had to watch it. I wanted to show it to my wife because it's really cool seeing Miles Morales on the big screen. He is an excellent Spider-Man, and it was really enjoyed. It's too bad she didn't make it quite through the film. She fell asleep. But I got to the end. Now, that part where it looks all 3D-ish, unfortunately, that does look like it is in grain, because it is also in this cut of the film. So I think it's part of the art style, which is the biggest negative I hold against it, because it makes it look fuzzy and kind of
like a negative at times.
Yeah, so
they did a weird sort of mashup of 2D and 3D, and when it really works, it really works. There are times where the film looks awesome, but there are times where it looks like you should be wearing 3D glasses.
It is like a very experimental film, animation-wise. Yeah. And story-wise, it's awesome to see this. It did deserve its spot.
Yes.
And it was an excellent film.
It should have gotten a lot more Oscar nods than it did.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, it's just like my hope for Lego Movie 2 to get a nod, even though they won't.
No.
But, which doesn't make sense because it is animated.
Yeah.
I think it's because of live-action elements in it?
Oh, you mean in the animated feature category? I think they got enough blowback that they didn't nominate the first one that they might do this one.
It might be a contender to Toy Story 4, but I don't think it will be. Toy Story 4 is going to be the same story told in the fourth time with a different set.
Yeah.
And it'll be, basically the toys will be fooling around, and then their new owner will be coming upon a life change which will affect the toys, and then they'll have to learn to get over that feeling of loss and adapt to life as it changes.
Yeah.
And that'll be the whole plot of the film. How do I know this? Because it's been the plot of the other 3 films.
Now, or if they really, really, really want to impress us, they can do, okay, Andy has grown up. He's got a family. He's got some brand new kids. And the movie is a horror story. Straight up horror. Straight up horror. They're trying to get away from the little baby.
Actually, I want to see a follow-up with the kid from the original movie, the one that was destroying the toys.
Yeah.
I want to see his movie. Like, he's just sitting there terrified. He walks into a toy shop. I can't stay in here. He's talking to his therapist. They come alive. They're gonna kill me.
Oh yeah.
That would just be, to me, I think that would just be excellent. That's an excellent spin-off.
Or he has kids, and his kids are possessed by the spirits of all the toys he killed over the years.
Either way, though, in truth, Toy Story 4, I think, is going to be an excellent film. It'll
Right.
probably win the Oscar and deserve the win. It's just, to me, I feel like it always...
I don't know. It's going to be up against Frozen 2.
Oh, come on. I really... I saw the trailer for that. I'm sorry. It doesn't impress me. Well, back to watching Red and all that stuff. So what else you got for us?
I'm pulling for I want to eat your pancreas. So anyway, the only one I have left is actually a really big one. And I don't think you're going to give a damn about this one. But this is a big one. I finally finished watching Friends.
Woo!
I finally finished after all this time. 10 seasons worth.
Yay.
And it is over. Unless I somehow get a hold of Joey, in which case that'll,
Until they do a Friends reboot.
which is coming, I'm sure. As I'm sure you've heard. Oh, I don't think I made note of that. We'll go ahead and mention, for all you NBC fanatics, Kelsey Grammer is entertaining ideas for a Frasier reboot.
Boo.
How can you do it without John Mahoney? I mean, that's a big negative right there.
Well, all you really need for Frasier is you need Daphne and you need Niles. And I guess...
But not Frasier.
I guess Frasier, but
No, you need Roz.
I mean, who really watched it for Frasier? They watched it for Daphne and Niles.
Yeah, you do need Roz if you're going to have Frasier as a central character. You probably could. I'd like to see some of the others come back, like Bulldog and whatnot. But what I'd really like would be a sort of a reboot where they bring back some of the old Cheers cast and have more of a
now, a
hybrid
Cheers
one.
reboot would be interesting.
Yes.
Like a mini-series.
Yes,
that would be cool.
Mini-series would be one thing. And one thing I always wanted to see, and we could do this if it would be really fun. It would be a chance to hit a bunch. They could use this as a chance to do mini reboots of a bunch of other series. Like, I've always wanted to see Frasier or Niles with Adrian Monk as their one of their clients. I would love to see that, or someone else like that, or Dexter is one of the clients, or something like that. Like a limited reboot of.
Well, since you've reached the end of your list, I'm going to try and rush through to the end of mine.
Okay.
A couple things in here. Incredible Hulk was our next film in our Marvel watch through, which that's been slow going. This is number 2 in the lineup. But still, it wasn't too bad. I've only watched it once through prior, so this is my second watch through. It's definitely one of the least of the Marvel films.
Or have Bruce Banner do a stint as one of Niles' clients.
I do feel like they should do another Hulk movie, though, with Mark Ruffalo.
Yes.
So that we can actually explore this.
I think there's still rights issues with that one.
Yeah, which is sad. It was the Incredible Hulk was not a bad film.
No.
It did, and this is what I was saying before with somebody else, is it did what you're supposed to do in a Hulk movie. Hulk smash. Hulk smash. I remember watching it again. Watched with my wife. She's saying, "This is a whole Man of Steel all over again." So, but the difference is in Man of Steel, Superman doesn't really want to destroy the city. Hulk doesn't care if he destroys the city. People come to a Hulk movie to watch him destroy the city. That's what they want to see. They want to see Hulk smash. That's why the Ang Lee film did not do as well, because Hulk didn't smash. Hulk,
Yeah, see, when Hulk's like, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. And he gets all big and green and blue, you know. And Clark Kent, you know, like, you wouldn't like me when I'm angry. He takes his glasses off. What? I'm angry now.
So, I watched one of the Star Wars spin-offs. I watched actually a lot of them. I watched the 2 droid cartoons, The Pirates and the Prince and The Treasure of the Hidden Planet.
Ah.
They're kind of forgettable tales. One of them is about, The Pirates and the Prince is about they're on this planet looking for a master, and they find one, and this, kind-hearted kid who works on a desert farm. Sounds very similar to another plot of another
Luffy?
Star Wars movie. And they also end up getting this other droid, which turns out to be actually the prince of a planet. And they get involved in this whole thing to where this prince was to be deposed. So they have to go back and help him reclaim his birthright. The treasure on the hidden planet is involves the Empire and this group of raiders, and R2-D2 and C-3PO are owned by this asshole who is going around and taking shit. And he learns to be a good guy in the end. It's a decent animated features. They weren't bad. They were entertaining. I'd say they were on the line of Ratchet, so they weren't too bad. And of course, I also watched the 20-minute mockumentary R2-D2 Behind the Dome, which was hilarious. It really was. It was done like
behind the dome, or is it under the dome?
No, it is behind the dome.
Okay.
And or beneath the dome. Sorry, beneath the dome.
Beneath the dome.
So kind of under the dome, but differently worded. And you've seen the behind the musics, and that's exactly what it was with R2-D2.
Behind the mask.
It was great. It was worth getting for the few bucks I chalked out.
Nice.
I also finished Anohana, watched through again,
Nice.
and it is an excellent series. I was reminded about how excellent it is, and of course I teared up at the end again. It's a series about this group of friends who end up separating after one of them ends up dying in a terrible accident. Fast forward to the future, her spirit is haunting one of the friends, and they have to end up getting back together and finding out what it was that drew them together in the first place. I'm not going to ruin anything else about this, but it is an excellent series. I hope you get to watch it. You're probably going to want to stream it because you either have to, 1, track down an NIS copy, which is expensive, or get the Aniplex copy, which is oddly enough more expensive, and that's in print. But it is worth the track down.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, remember I said I chose between 2 movies at the beginning. Well, I got to watch the other one that weekend, which was How to Train Your Dragon 3: The Hidden World.
Still need to see that one.
This one is the end of the trilogy, and it does do a good job of wrapping it up.
Good deal.
This takes place after the events of the second movie, and they're taking the fight to the dragon, like the people who are trying to capture dragons to use them for military purposes. But there's too many dragons for their little island, so they've got to figure out how to move it. And of course, they have a love interest for Toothless, and they have a guy who is a dragon hunter, and he's a real evil person, but not too evil. And of course, they also explore Hiccup's relationship and whether he is going to get married and continue on as the chief or not.
Okay.
And they resolve all these things by the end as they find the hidden world.
Cool.
To me, It was a good film. It was not as good as the second one. The second one, to me, was the best of the three. And I just, the third one was good, but I don't think it stood against Lego Movie 2. So, will it be up for the award this year? Possibly.
Right.
But, do I think...
it's got a good shot.
I don't think it'll beat Toy Story 4, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just fun. That's the end of my list.
All right.
Now on to news.
Yes.
I know you had items too, so I'll let you start with your first one.
Well, yeah, we'll go ahead and end. I'll just go ahead and end with a couple of kind of sad ones, just real quick. One being just the quick note that for those of you who are not yet aware, Alex Trebek has announced that he has cancer, and this is very sad because Jeopardy's been a huge part of my growing up and what have you. So, it's worth noting, and I do wish him the best. We'll and then something that is a little bit more final, not necessarily as tragic in some ways, but still sad. They have announced officially that Arrow will be ending with season 8.
Yeah,
and so that's a kind of a sad, but also kind of good because they don't want to run it into the ground,
While we're going with sad news, and it's been a while since we've talked about there was the Michael Jackson and the R. Kelly documentaries.
Yes,
both of them fraught with controversy. The R. Kelly one actually ended up with him going to jail and being charged for a lot of these women that he had kept captive, apparently. And, of course, he had made this really emotional plea on the interview. And, of course, somebody paid his bail to get him out of jail. And there are many fans saying it's all a fake, he's, believe him. I don't know. This one's pretty rock solid on things.
Yeah.
I mean, even he said, well, they sold me those girls. The parents sold me. It's like, what? I even had somebody posting, well, Elvis married a 14-year-old and y'all are messing with R. Kelly. I was like, what? Yes, he married, he's not good. But that doesn't mean that R. Kelly is not a scumbag.
Yes, I mean, some of it, like, if all he did was marry Aaliyah when she was too young, that's one thing. But it is well known, has been known for years, that it goes well beyond that. So it's like,
yeah. And we'll go ahead and cover Michael Jackson while we're on it. And this one is a bit different, though, because this is just about the accounts from those people who were potentially victims. Yeah. I can't 100% can put this on the same level because, again, there's not enough evidence to say whether this really happened or not in this. And, of course, Simpsons, they pulled the episode that he was in. And there's been a big, anti-Michael Jackson thing going on at this point. I'm not really for or against. I just don't feel like there's enough to go forward. It's much like the Woody Allen thing. Right. There's not enough evidence to go forward to say, oh, he definitely did this. It's just, you got to go on the accounts of these people. And one of them, actually, there was a thing that they were lying that came out, which also doesn't do a lot for the...
Well, everything I've heard is that the accounts are a little more substantiated than with Woody Allen, but again, not quite on the same level as R. Kelly. I mean, that's kind of, but it's unfortunate that the drumbeat continues on for a lot of these people. Now, on the flip side of that, a great tale of redemption from the past couple weeks. Disney finally decided they were going to go ahead and give James Gunn another chance.
I don't think they'd have made Guardians 3 otherwise.
Yes. They had said before they might proceed with his screenplay. They have finally come out and said once he has finished his obligations with the Suicide Squad, he will be on board doing Guardians 3. And that is awesome. I am very happy, and a lot of people are very happy. Yes, he made some very unfortunate comments when he was young and stupid, And most people make unfortunate comments
Yeah.
when they're young and stupid. All the evidence seems to be that he was just trying to be shocking. If it was more of an, but it's really impressive that Disney would actually give someone a second chance after trying to be this great, it's
because
our way or the highway.
we all know with Disney's thing, if you have anything bad you've done in your past, you shouldn't be allowed to proceed. Because, Disney's never done anything like that in their past.
Disney has a spotless reputation and has ever since the days of Walt Disney. Yeah, right.
But, this is... Our society is... I feel like our society is going in a bad direction in this. People are willing to say, yeah, you did this 20 years ago. You cannot be forgiven, ever. There is no redemption. Once a criminal, always a criminal. And the sad thing is, the people who are leading the march to this are people who would like to decriminalize things for people who are, on death row. These are people who are mostly liberals who are doing this, which
That are doing what?
that are saying, no, these people can never be forgiven. I mean, that to me is a terrible thing to say, especially when you're trying to talk about people like felons getting their voting rights back. Well, if they can't, they did something wrong 20 years ago, therefore they're still a criminal according to your reasoning. You got to allow for redemption.
Yeah.
Eventually. Now, admittedly, in some cases, like, say, Kevin Spacey, who has still yet to really give much of an apology for what he did,
No.
That's a difference.
Instead, he just puts out creepy cosplay videos. Pretty much.
But yeah, remorse. That is the thing.
Yes.
If they show remorse, then yes, allow for redemption after some time period, for goodness sakes.
Yes.
Spielberg is at war with Netflix again.
Yes.
And is trying his best to make sure that their movies do not get the Oscar treatment next year.
Right.
To me, I think that there's a point to it. I think that Netflix... I've started to think that Oscar should start saying that their movies, one of the requirements should be wide release.
Right.
The movie had to have been in wide release in that year.
Right.
And that should be the benchmark. So, for instance, the Laurel and Hardy movie.
Right.
It hit wide release this year.
Yeah.
So it should be up for awards this
Well,
year.
again, they allow 1 week consecutive showings starting during the calendar year at least one theater in Los Angeles County. That's bullshit. They need to have at least 1 week consecutive play in a calendar year. Yes, I'll grant you that. However, having simply 1 week to qualify? No. If you're going to start at the very tail end of the year and you just happen to run into the next year because you started so late, that's one thing. But don't have a qualifying run and then disappear for 4 months and then show up in limited release, or have a qualifying run and then go straight to streaming or something like that. No. And yes, it should not just be LA. I don't think it necessarily needs to be wide release, but it needs to be released in multiple markets. Like, at the very least, LA, New York, and Chicago.
I think we should get a 50-state release.
Okay.
I mean, to me, I think that, unless it's foreign film, I will give foreign film that, and I'll give short film a different thing. But
I don't. Foreign film has already too many issues with the rules. Foreign films should be on the exact same rules as art house films. I think it should.
But I still feel like there should be a full state release. I think that people from all over the states should be able to access these films.
Well, that's not going to happen unless there are changes in the way they get shown, or what have you.
I think that the Oscars will eventually crash and burn before that happens. And
but along those lines, it could be worse.
Yeah.
Because another Netflix news I saw today, actually, they were talking about Netflix will once again, just like last year, will not be screening at Cannes anything. They were hoping to, but the reason why Cannes kicked them out was France apparently has a very draconian rule to where a film cannot stream. If you want to be in awards contention or whatever, a film cannot stream for 36 months after the film debuts.
Yeah.
That's a long time. I think that's too much. I think
Yeah, it's a
maybe
bit much.
12 months. 12 months. Maybe if Netflix really wants to do this, if they just actually try to do a theatrical run, and then, or maybe we'll say 6 months, because the usual window for theaters is like 3 months now. So we'll say at least 6 months. You can't stream for 6 months after it hits theaters. That's fine. I like the idea that I saw that there could be a subscription level to where if you pay a certain fee to Netflix, you can get tickets to see their films in theaters. That would be a really cool idea. You know, there are things that could be done to work together instead of being so at each other's throats. But the current system is stupid on multiple levels. So,
Of course, you were talking about the EW like Green Arrow. Of course, there are rumors now that Supergirl might also be ending, but being replaced by Superman.
Huh.
Now that might, to me, that's got some potential for some political uprising.
Yeah.
But again, I have not seen enough of Supergirl. I've only seen the first season.
Right.
So who knows?
Okay, CW. Okay, if you are listening, if you're not chucking these shows but continuing on, here's a couple ideas. One, I'd like to see something. Well, I guess with DC currently doing Titans, that's not going to happen. So forget that one. But the big one, the big ones. We'll say ones. They killed off Black Canary, didn't they? So they couldn't really do Birds of Prey, could they?
Well, they had a second Black Canary.
Yeah. Well, maybe they can do Birds of Prey. Show the DC movie people how it's done. But the big one I really want to see, I think would be an awesome series. Get Amanda Connor to write it, and I will watch every episode as it airs. I want to see Quinn and Ivy. I want that. That would be an awesome show.
I gotta wonder why why Black Lightning isn't a part of the Arrowverse. That's kind of weird.
Not?
It's not. It's not considered to be a part of the Arrowverse, which is weird.
That is kind of weird.
Now, I know you saw this at the same theatrical release that I did, which is they showed the theatrical trailer for the Downton Abbey movie.
Oh, no, I just thought it was hilarious the way your wife almost jumped out of her seat with excitement.
It is exciting, but I don't know. I need to finish watching the original series, I'll admit.
You never finished.
It
You
just
do need
dropped
to-
off
yeah.
in interest. After like season 3, it started just to go down in interest.
Yeah.
When they killed off one of the major characters, it just, I don't know, it wasn't as
They
good.
killed half the cast in season 3.
But
It felt that way.
But again, I do need to rewatch it. I've got that cool box set.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a big project this summer because it comes in the fall.
Yeah.
So we're going to try and get that done.
Right.
I really did like Downton Abbey. It was a good series.
Mm-hmm.
Upstairs, Downstairs, also excellent series. It's just a cool period piece.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I'm a little surprised in this era of reboots and all this stuff. I'm surprised they haven't approached Julian Fellows about a Gosford Park series.
That would be cool.
Yeah, that would be. But, so next up, speaking of series based on literary or really highfalutin events, and Netflix is producing a series for the Gabriel Garcia Marquez classic 100 Years of Solitude, which I'm curious about this. I might have to give that a look. Did you have any other news?
Well, I mean, I know most people have already probably heard it by now, but Woody Allen is making a film again.
Yes.
He is filming in Spain, which is awesome. And when people tried to guilt the Spain people, the Spanish production company into, you shouldn't do this, you're doing it for a child molester, all this stuff, and they're just like, let's let the film speak for itself.
Yeah, they're like, we respect the art, and that's it. And that's what we care about.
So
and this is the production partner he had for Vicky Cristina Barcelona and Midnight in Paris.
it's going to be, I think it'll be an excellent film. Woody Allen is a hard-working director. He does good work. I will be interested in seeing what he does.
Right.
I really want to see the film that is being held by Amazon. And I think that I really do feel like his lawsuit will end in a settlement that they will say, okay, we will release the film.
Right.
If you drop your lawsuit.
They'll probably try to bury it, but yeah.
Because it's sad. It's finished.
Yeah.
He just needs to be able to release it, and he does want to do that. And you know, did you get out to see the limited run of gosh, what was it? The Terry Gilliam film? Gosh, what was the film's name? The one, his Don Quixote film.
The Man Who Killed Don Quixote? That came out already?
They had a limited run.
It must have been very limited.
It was a Wednesday only, 2 weeks ago. It was the 10th-ish.
No, I didn't. I heard. I didn't hear Bupkis about that.
But I heard it last minute, and I was working Crisis that night, so I couldn't do anything. But it was sad that it came out on a Wednesday, but it did have a limited screening here, and I'm hoping this will bode well for a wide release.
I hope so. After all the work he put into that, for it to get that limited of a screening? Jesus.
But, you know, I'm just glad it came over here for a temporary time.
I want to see The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, but whatever. My last news item. I have one last particular item to mention. And as we mentioned in our new releases video for this week, there was no release this week for the Gundam franchise, but here on the news, we can say, more Gundam! Apparently, they are producing a live-action American version of the Gundam franchise.
Stop.
Yes. However, it's being written by Brian K. Vaughan. So that could be pretty awesome. The guy behind Runaways and Why the Last Man and some other highly acclaimed series. I freaking love Runaways. It's awesome. I don't know how good it's going to be, but that part of it's awesome.
Well, I guess that's going to be it for our run-through. And I hope you all enjoyed this.
Yes.
We're going to be much shorter on our next ones coming up, but
Yes.
we're going to have a lot less. If we run at the same speed we've been running, then we'll do it in under an hour easy.
Yep.
So I hope you like, subscribe, and of course share. And we will see you on the next one.
Bye.
Goodbye.